What if I told you that the Borderlands movie wasn't that bad? You know, like all these YouTubers are making it out to be like the worst movie ever, and it's not. Okay, it is still pretty bad. But hear me out, and I'll let you know before I get into any spoilers or anything like that. So, going into the movie, everyone was telling me that the movie was terrible. Like I said, like the worst movie they'd ever seen. And, plenty of YouTubers have already covered just that it is terrible. Like there was no redeeming qualities, basically. It's the way they're making it out to seem. And I think that's wrong. There are some redeeming qualities. I wouldn't say that they actually fully redeem the movie, but they try. And so, that combined with the trailers, where they had like visibly odd casting decisions. I had very low expectations going into it. And so I was actually somewhat surprised, like in a good way. Very, very slightly though. Like I said, it's not a very good movie, but it could have been a lot worse. So unsurprisingly, the movie has a ton of flaws, like a ton of flaws. However, most of the flaws I would say revolve around one big thing, and that's ignoring the source material, which I have another video about why this is a horrible idea. And I even mentioned the Borderlands movie as a possible future example at the time of making that video because I had a feeling that it was going to do this.
Why would you change it if people already like it? It's like the don't fix what isn't broke type of deal. And there really are just like endless examples of this in recent years of reboots and adaptations just completely destroying the source material. And it's gross. Like, what is the point? It doesn't do well, like financially. Like every time you see something like this happen, it ends up flopping.
And honestly, that is a flaw that's big enough to completely ruin a movie for most people that are fans of Borderlands. So I completely get that. But I'll talk more about that in a bit. First, let's talk about some other stuff because the movie's flaws certainly don't end there. So I watched the movie with my parents and my girlfriend who know pretty little about the game's plot. They know a bit, especially my girlfriend. She's played through all of Borderlands 3. And my girlfriend wasn't a fan of the movie, but my parents thought it was okay. It's pretty like mindless fun, Like if you ignore the source material, the movie on its own is just like not great, but not horrible. And it's filled with flashy visuals and random bits of attempted humor to keep you watching to the end. It's what a lot of people would call slop. It's the type of thing where it's like if you don't care that much, it's passable. But so yeah, basically if you do enjoy those kind of like over the top, flashy movies, then yeah, I mean, it's not the worst one out there, I'd say. But of course, if you do know about the plots of the games, it's pretty frustrating to watch. The movie actually makes nonstop references to the games, like literally nonstop. Like every few seconds, there is a reference to the games. And a very mild spoiler here. You good? Okay. It's not a standalone story like I was hoping. It's a weird rewrite of the first game story, but it's definitely not the plot of the first game. I don't know how to explain it to you better. It basically takes place during the time in which the first game story would have happened, but it's not the first game story. Okay, that's pretty much the most I'm going to explain here. I'll explain more about that later during the part that's just straight up spoiling the movie. But so yeah, it's constantly filled with references, and they often twist into something that makes no sense, really. I mean, they do have some good references. For example, they have a scene where Lilith looks down a scope and it shows the Vladoff scope, which, cool. I like that reference. It's just a little subtle nod to the games. However, they often take something familiar and then change it just for the sake of changing things. Which, like I said in this video, is a horrible idea. And I'm probably going to mention that video again at this rate, because, oh my goodness. So like I said, during the part of the video where I spoiled the movie a bit more, I'm just going to run through a bunch of the weird changes to the plot at the end of the video. So again, I'll let you know before I do that so you have a proper warning for the spoilers. But so yeah, other than that, the jokes were pretty hit or miss. With most missing, but I find Marvel movies are the same way. There were like one or two jokes that had most of the theater laughing, surprisingly. It's like nothing profound, but just well-timed silliness. Most of the movie's humor can be summed up with this scene from the trailer, though.
What's happening right now?
I'm expelling the excess lead. I can't go if you're looking at me.
And I have a feeling that you didn't find that very funny. The casting was obviously just an attempt to stuff the movie with big names. And again, mild spoilers. They actually made some changes to the plot based around the casting, which is bizarre. I'll elaborate on that later. The acting is pretty mediocre. Like, Cate Blanchett was definitely trying way too hard to look like cool and stoic, and it actually comes off just looking like goofy and constipated. Krieg was probably the best acted, but he didn't actually do much. Kevin Hart acted like he always does, which I mean, I wouldn't say is bad, but it didn't quite fit the role of Roland. The actress for Tiny Tina acted fairly well, I'd say. Like, for, it's a child actor, so I'm not gonna like scrutinize it too much, but I don't think she fully understood the character and would sometimes just kind of like default into generic teenager mode, which I'm not even sure is her fault. Like, I almost feel like perhaps that was what she was told to do. Jack Black actually surprised me at times with how close his voice sounded like Claptrap, but yeah, most of the time it was clearly just Jack Black. I mean, I think he played the character well enough, though. But given it was a voice acting role, it's still very weird that they didn't just get the actual voice actor from the games. I mean, it's actually kind of insane, really. Like, they actively made the movie worse just to have Jack Black's name on it, which is kind of unfortunate for Jack Black and the movie. The costume design was also very hit or miss. Like, some characters looked perfect, like, especially a lot of the background characters, weirdly enough. But then you have, Kate Blanchett, Lilith, looking like a cosplayer, which was obvious from the trailers, but it's weird. Like, her outfit and hair were almost always like too pristine and fake looking, and then Krieg's mask looks like something you'd find from Party City, which is odd because you do see decent masks on the background characters. Like, I really don't know what was going on here. Like, maybe they made his mask first and then just didn't update it. I don't know. And okay, so this is probably the best part of the movie. The set design was actually fantastic. Like, better than most movies, even. It is definitely the best part of the movie, but that's also kind of something that I feel like most people would overlook. So, like, each location was instantly recognizable and looked great on film. Again, looked better than most movies. And I feel like that's tough because they're also balancing the fact that it has to look like the video game. The location has to be recognizable. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be because they ignored so much of the plot, but they were going for it being recognizable and they achieved that. They looked like actual locations and not just movie sets. However, it often looked like the actors weren't actually on set and were kind of added in afterwards. And I know that's becoming like an increasingly common practice, but I feel like it normally works better than this. Instead, it often reminded me of like the uncanny look of like the Spy Kid movies or Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which is actually kind of a neat look, but it obviously wasn't what they were going for. They weren't going for this weird, uncanny look. They were trying to make it look real, I guess. So, that kind of negates the best part of the movie, the sets. The CGI was also, hit or miss at times. Honestly, a lot about the movie is really hit or miss, which is weird. It's like parts of the movie were actually good, and then they're almost always followed by something bad. Like there's some CGI moments that, look impressive, and then there's some that look like something you'd see out of like an early PS3 game, which is weird. It's weird that they're both in the same movie. Like, I don't know if they ran out of money or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But so yeah, big spoilers ahead, because I'm just going to list all the changes to the source material that I remember off the top of my head. I'm probably going to miss a ton because there is a lot. But so yeah, I'm just going to list them. So Tina and Krieg are now escaped prisoners of Atlas. Brick and Mordecai don't exist, I guess. Roland is short. He even mentions it for some reason. Lilith is old. She even mentions it for some reason. Tina was made in an Atlas lab. Tina is an alien clone, apparently. Tina thinks she has alien powers. Lilith is adamant that she's not a Vault Hunter. Lilith doesn't know she's a siren. Sirens aren't actually mentioned at all for some reason. Lilith shows up at Firestone alone. The main Claptrap is already the last Claptrap left whenever Lilith meets him. Sanctuary already exists. And again, if I haven't made it clear before, it's implied this is the first time Lilith's been on Pandora since she was a kid, so Sanctuary should not exist yet, right? Okay, moving forwards. Tanis already lives in Sanctuary, which is kind of combined to the fact that Sanctuary already exists. Tanis already knows Lilith. Crom is wearing Mouthpiece's mask and is working with Atlas for some reason, but it's never explained. Commandant Steele isn't mentioned as far as I remember, despite the first vault on Pandora being opened. The Bloodshots from Borderlands 2 are also in the movie, and they live in Caustic Caverns from Borderlands 2, and they find a vault piece in Caustic Caverns for some reason. Caustic Caverns is also basically a sewer now. Caustic Caverns is also no longer underneath Sanctuary for some reason. The first vault is now in Crom's Canyon. Lilith just starts with the Infinity for some reason, but then chooses not to use it for like the entire second half of the movie. Claptrap kind of hates Lilith for some reason. Claptrap was actually programmed by Lilith's mom. Nox is there as a woman, I guess. Or maybe it's his daughter, I don't know. It's really not explained. The Atlas CEO is the main villain rather than, again, Steel. Opening the vault didn't release the destroyer. It just gave Lilith her Firehawk powers. It didn't explain that she was a siren, just that she was the Firehawk. Lilith has the power to make people invincible, I guess. Only one person in the entire universe has a shield, apparently, which is the Atlas CEO, because of plot armor, I guess. I don't know. Claptrap is invincible, I guess. They think Tina is part of the Vault Key because of her potential alien powers. And yeah, there's just so much more about it that changed. Basically, the entire plot, like I said, is a rewrite of the first Borderlands game, but it's like such a massive rewrite that it's basically a completely different plot. So, like, the movie doesn't start, with them getting on the bus to go to Firestone, but it does have a nod to it because Lilith gets on the bus to go to Firestone at one point, but it's just her. Brick and Mordecai obviously aren't on the bus because they're not in the movie, and Roland isn't on the bus because Roland's on a mission to save Tina at the time, and Lilith is trying to actually capture Tina to give to the Atlas CEO. It's just a completely different plot, but it also would take place at the time during when the first game would happen, so it couldn't possibly be something, like after the first game, but before the second. So it's very bizarre. It's weird. It's a weird movie if you know the plot of the games. If you don't know the plot of the games, it's probably, like I said, just like a Marvel movie. Like, it's okay, I guess, maybe. I don't know. That said, I'm not sad that the movie's doing horribly. Should have followed the source material. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know why people keep thinking they're above the source material. You're never above the source material. If you're using source material for something, if it's a reboot or an adaptation, you're never above it, period. It's always that way. Like, I don't know how many more examples of this you need to understand that. But weirdly enough, Randy Pitchford, like the CEO of Gearbox, was surprised by this. He thought people would enjoy it for some reason, which, I mean, part of me understands that he thought that the people making the movie, because he obviously wasn't the one who actually made the movie, he thought they knew better than he did. So he kind of just gave them the green light to do whatever they wanted. That's kind of unfortunate. He really should have stepped in and been like, well, hang on, you need to follow this plot better. But I do understand where he's coming from. Like, it's kind of hard to be like, I'm better than you. But he really should have been like, well, hang on, if it's going to be a Borderlands movie, it needs to be a Borderlands movie, not whatever happened here. I don't know what this is. It's more like just like some random movie that happens to reference Borderlands a lot, which is actually something that I think would have done a lot better, is if they had a completely separate plot from, Borderlands. Maybe reference the characters from Borderlands, reference the plot, reference the universe, maybe even keep it in the universe. Just don't rewrite part of the story that already existed. You can add stuff to stories that already exist without rewriting stuff. But that goes back to the video on source material I made. Like, I've already mentioned this. I've already made it clear, like, so many times. It's not hard to work within source material. It's really not. Like, I don't understand. Are these writers just bad? Is that what it is? Because supposedly, like, the writers here are supposed to have been, talented people, people who I think Randy Pitchford probably looked up to in a way. So just the fact that they messed it up so horribly is kind of impressive. I know a lot of people who like Borderlands kind of don't like Randy Pitchford at this point, but I do kind of feel bad for him because I feel like it is kind of his responsibility, but at the same time, I feel like he put a lot of trust into these writers and thought they knew better than he did. And I guess he was wrong there. So, but yeah, that's that. Let me know if you've seen the movie and what your thoughts on it are in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. So yeah, see ya.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.